Well, hello there, gunfighters. Welcome, and hopefully welcome back to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, concealed carry, hunting, ballistics, all manner of things in that genre, the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. What are we going to talk about today? Quest for a compact carry gun. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now I'm going to put in the bio, as usual, to establish some street cred. If you've heard it before, skip the fast forward button. Usually they're 30 seconds, so that's 4 times, and we'll get into the main topic. If you haven't, I think it's important why you should listen. Because the answer to that shouldn't be because I have podcast. That doesn't really make anything credible. I always question why you listen to the people that you listen to. For that reason, I'll put in the bio. Again, if you've heard it before, skip it. And then we'll get into the main topic. I'll roll into a quick abbreviated bio and then into the main topic. First and foremost, I am a Christian. I don't apologize for that. God is number one in my life. I grew up hunting and fishing in the backwoods of the southeastern United States at a very early age. Some of my earliest memories are with firearms. I joined the Marine Corps at 17, did a couple of combat tours in Iraq. By God's grace, He got me through that safely. After that, I served as an instructor, an urban warfare instructor and a desert warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps. I also served with the LAPD, both full-time as a sworn police officer and some more specialized assignments, as well as serving in the U.S. Army, full-time and part-time National Guard. I've been a FBI firearms instructor, still am an FBI firearms instructor, have been for a lot of years, also NRA certified and some other 3-letter government agency certified. I've been a private contractor for a 3-letter government agency I won't specify. I've been the commander of a tactical team in a large metropolitan area. By God's grace, He got me through all that in one piece, not because I'm better, but because He chose to have grace and mercy on me. I've been a professional hunter and guide. Professionally hunted things like buffalo and elk. Not many people today can say they've done that, but I'm blessed to be able to say that I have. I've hunted everything from white-tailed deer on the East Coast to mule deer on the West Coast to gray squirrel on the East Coast to prairie dog on the West Coast and elk and bear and wolf and slain all manner of beast. A state rifle and pistol champion a few times over in a few different disciplines. Now those experiences, it's not because I'm bigger or badder, certainly not bigger. In fact, I met one of the patrons in real life and he said something to the effect of, "I thought you'd be bigger." Reminded me of that William Wallace movie where he's like, "Oh yeah, if William Wallace were here, he'd shoot lightning bolts out of his rear end." Well, I'm not William Wallace, but I am the person that did all those things in the bio. But not because I'm bigger or badder. I don't think that I survived when many other young, good men did not. I give all the glory and all the credit to God, all the talents and experiences that He's given me and the things that He's let me live through. I hope to use them to glorify God and to help you today. So if I boast in anything, it's not in my strength. It's in that God had mercy on me and saved me because He had a purpose for me. And hopefully I can use those talent, skills, and abilities to serve you today. I guess we'll start with a bunch of guns getting stolen. So kind of started this quest for a new compact carry gun because my wife's and my smaller semi-auto centerfire handguns got stolen. They were in our truck in a storage facility with a bunch of other stuff. A rifle, a lot of ammunition, just a lot of stuff was taken. But it is what it is. By God's grace, I have other guns. But I did not have any other small centerfire semi-autos. Now, you guys probably know if you're a regular listener that I generally carry a full-size fighting handgun. I would encourage you to carry a full-size fighting handgun. But I don't always. Now, my super small ultralight carry is a .357 Magnum 360 PD. J-frame, 11 ounces and something, 5 shots, 357 Magnum. And that's what I'll generally carry if I'm going just super small, super easy. Like I'm going to do wind sprints in the forest. Right? And any kind of belt with a gun on it is just going to flop all around doing wind sprints. So I'll generally carry the J-frame. If I find myself in a city and I'm running, jogging through a city and I'm doing that in like workout shorts, then that's my carry. It's super light, it's decent. But what about in the middle? I really didn't have another option. Now for years and years and years, I had a Glock 26. That was my compact carry gun. It had night sights on it. I had a lot of rounds through it. I really liked that gun. It was crazy accurate. I had done a bunch of upgrades to it. It was a good gun. But alas, it is no more. At least no more for me. It's gone. So, I had experimented with a lot of different guns over the years to try and replace that Glock 26, and I had went back to the Glock 26. Just to give you an idea, I had this thing a long time ago. When the Glock 43 was a brand new thing, like when it first came out, I was like, oh, I'm going to get me one of those. It's like the 26, but better because it's smaller. And I got it, and I shot it, and I almost immediately sold it. I did not think it was better in any way than the 26. The 26 was small enough to go in my pocket. The 43, a little bit smaller, okay, but it was way less shootable. It was way less controllable. It didn't take the bigger mags if I wanted to carry a spare mag that went into pretty much all the other double-stack Glocks. It didn't share a lot of the parts commonality, which is one of the great things about Glock, is that you can swap parts, this part, that part. You couldn't do that with a lot of the parts on the 43. I shot it. I was like, this is not as good as my 26. It was much less shootable than a Glock 26, and it really didn't carry any better. It's a little bit narrower, but that means that all that recoil is going into a narrower margin. It's not spread out as much. So I preferred the 26, so I got rid of the 43. Also, I tried for a time the car. I don't remember if this was before or after the Glock 43. I tried the car, whatever the nomenclature is, the super small compact 9mm, the P9, the PM9, I forget which one it was, but it wasn't great. I didn't fall in love with it and went back to the 26. I should say that made me think of even before that, years and years before that, when I was winning a lot of competitions with a Smith & Wesson M&P, carrying a Smith & Wesson M&P on duty. I really like a full-size or even a pro model, even better, Smith & Wesson M&P. So I bought the compact thinking, this will be great. And it was just a little too big, the compact I'm talking. It was big enough that if I was going to carry it, I might as well carry a full-size gun. The Glock 26 wasn't. And although I really like the full-size Smith & Wesson M&P or the pro size, I didn't really like the compact for compact carry. That said, over the years, I probably got better in the kind of belts and stuff that I would carry when I was compact concealed carrying. It may be a fine choice for me now even. But I did try that years ago and went back to the 26. Or went to the 26, whatever the order was. But the 26 just stayed with me a long time. Even though I tried many other things, the 26 was a good gun. You might think, well, why not just get a 26? And I really considered that. Especially the Gen 5. Because the Gen 5, other than the original Gen 1s, which I didn't make in a 26, the Gen 5 is my favorite gen. It makes the most sense. They got rid of those ridiculous finger grooves. The Gen 5s are decent. You know I'm not a Glock fanboy, but they're okay. My issue with that is now, as opposed to years ago, I generally run optics. And I wanted the option, even if on my compact carry gun I'm going to run iron sights most of the time, who knows, I might want to run an optic. And the Glock optics mounting system, and I've mounted quite a few optics on quite a few handguns and seen a bunch of different systems, the Glock just kind of seemed like, what's the least we can do to get an optic stuck on the top of this thing? I was never overly confident in just the minimal purchasing ability, the not a lot of threads getting locked in to hold an optic in place. I found optics a bit dubious on handguns for a while, probably a lot longer than I should. Now I'm okay with them, but that's assuming you get a rock solid mount. because just like a scope in hunting, you could have a really nice rifle, you could have a really, really nice scope. If you got crap mounts, the rifle and scope are no better than the weakest link, which is the mounts. Same thing with a handgun. If you mount it wrong or don't torque it down right, or don't use your blue Loctite or whatever, you can have real issues. I wasn't real confident in the Glock mounting system. That's why I didn't get another Glock 26. At least not for now. I did really, really consider, it was in the running, the Shadow Systems makes their small now Glock 26. And I'll be honest, I might have bought one of those if I could have found one. I just couldn't find one anywhere. And since I live as a nomad, that kind of makes it hard to order stuff, because who knows where I'll be when it comes in. But that was definitely in the running. Shadow Systems makes like a 26 size now, which is probably going to be better than the Glock 26 in many ways. That said, even then, one of the things I never liked about the 26 is it's got a Glock trigger, which is okay. Anyway, which leads me to a couple of other considerations I had. I really, really considered a revolver. Now, I mentioned my 357 Magnum J-frame. I've had that thing a long time. Even before that, the first handgun I ever bought with my own money was a 38 Special Smith & Wesson J-frame. I forget the exact model. I still have it. It's in front of me now. It's also a great compact carry gun, but now I usually just carry the 357. It's lighter and it's more powerful. And I may or may not want to carry it with 357s, but there's really no reason not to. That said, I really like the J-frame. And that was the first handgun I ever bought with my own money. When I joined the Marine Corps, they issued me a handgun. When I was LAPD, they issued me a duty gun. But they made us buy our own backup gun. Myself, like many other cops, many other LAPD officers, bought Smith & Wesson J-frame as a backup. Still a great gun. I thought maybe I'll get a revolver that's a little bit more shootable than that. Little bit longer barrel, little bit longer grip, maybe a little bit more capacity. And I almost talked myself into it. I almost talked myself into a Kimber K6S. I had it in my hand. I went back and held another one. I really like them. They're a lot sleeker for a 6-shot, just if you're looking. Because that's the whole reason I'm talking about this, right? Some of these other avenues that I didn't go down may really benefit you. I tried to justify it in my head. I was like, it's really sleek. It's really, really a beautiful gun, and it is. It's a gorgeous gun, the Kimber K6S. They make a 3-inch and a 4-inch model. It's a lot slimmer, although it's a 6-shot 357 Magnum. If you hold it next to like a Colt Python, which is an absolute beautiful gun too, Colt Python's a big gun. And that's not a compact carry gun, but the Kimber K6S is really sleek and svelte, and it is a compact carry. And I was just trying to justify it in my head. I live, for right now in the Wild West of North Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, where there's black bear, grizzly bear, wolf, mountain lion, and I go out and hunt that stuff. I don't hunt grizzly bear, just if you're a game warden listening, because it's not a legal season, but the other stuff is legal. I'll try and put a stalk on it. I spent a lot of time out in the backcountry, just out in the backcountry. A big chunk of this week because the weather was nice. I was just out in the mountains because that's where I'd rather be. I spent a lot of time in the backcountry, so I try to justify it in that, it's going to be a good backcountry gun. It's still a little bit better in town, but here's the thing. I was wanting to justify that purchase based on emotion. Also, I wanted to try that whole modern fighting revolver concept that I talked about, but if I step back and looked at it realistically, and I'm glad I took a deep breath and didn't take the plunge on that Kimber K6S. Maybe one day I'll have one, and it would be fine for some situations, but I don't have a ton of money. What I did was I sold before I left. You probably remember the trip where my wife's friend was in the hospital and she needed help taking care of her kids, so we went to help out. I put a couple of my guns that I didn't need as much as a compact carry gun. It is what it is, but I needed a compact carry gun, so I took one of my old guide rifles, a Kimber rifle, and a 20 gauge shotgun, because with the short shells and 12 gauge, I didn't really see the need for the 20 gauge, and I'm not guiding right now. So I took those guns, put them at the local gun store for sale, and they sold, so I had some money in the gun fund. But I thought what I needed was a practical compact carry gun, and as much as I would like to justify it, and as much as I would like to think that a 357 Magnum 6-shot is a great compact carry gun, it's not as good as a compact 9mm semi-auto for most things, even if you're in the backcountry, right? And this is what I think a lot of people miss about, like, they're worried about lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But even in the backcountry, even in national parks, national forests, state parks, people are your number one threat, right? Look at even in rugged remote areas like western Montana or northern Idaho. Look at the amount of people killed by grizzly bears every year and black bear every year and then mountain lion every year and then double it and then triple it. And then look at the amount of people in those same areas that are killed by other people. Right? So instead of me trying to justify something based on emotion and what I wanted to be great, I figured the more practical choice would be a mid-size 9mm handgun. Again, I usually carry a full-size fighting handgun, but I carry it at 3 o'clock, OWB, and I can't always get away with that. Now, this is northern Idaho, so most people don't care. It's not like the Northeast. Like, you walk into a bank in Arizona or Idaho and your gun is showing, nobody cares. So like, how can I help you today? Do you want to open up an account? Right? No, nobody cares because a lot of people go around healed here. This is not like New England. That said, there are times when I'm not going to get away with a full-size fighting handgun and a reload and a pouch on my belt, but I might want something a little bit bigger, a little bit better than a 5-shot J-frame. So I thought a mid-size 9mm was a more practical choice. Even in bear country, even in mountain lion country, I'm way more likely to have issues. There's a whole podcast called, like, I think Park Predators or something, where people kill people in national parks, national forests, state parks, right? That's a thing. I don't generally listen to that, but I know it's an entire podcast about it. Like, people do bad things in small towns and in the country and in parks and stuff too. I generally don't go to parks. I generally go out into literal wilderness. Even there, you got to drive there, and you got to drive back. You generally got to park in an area, right? You're probably more likely to have an issue running into people doing bad things. And I've had some run-ins with bear. I have. But still, logically, more likely to have an issue with a person or several people. And for that, the compact 9mm. So, with that, what I would consider like my creme de la creme of my carry guns, I have two that I vacillate back and forth for my full-size fighting handgun, a Sig Sauer 226 Legion, single action only, which I will carry 3 o'clock OWB, or the M17. Now, I bought the M17 because I got a screaming deal. I bought it for like 400 and some bucks used. Somebody didn't want it. I think they got it because it was like the new military gun, and they were into military guns, but they were into the more of the classic military guns, like M1 Grands and stuff, so they want to get rid of it. I bought it mostly because I wanted to try the military's new handgun. I didn't think I was going to like it, to be honest. I also got it because I had been running an optic on a 22, and I have realized there really is a force multiplier, which I would advise you to practice with a 22 if you're considering pretty much anything. Practice with a 22, and I ran the 22 for a while, and I ran some of my standard drills, and I ran it with an optic, and I was like, wow, I was wrong for a long time. An optic on a handgun really is a force multiplier. So I bought the M17 mostly to try the military's new handgun, and to try it and step up to a standard caliber 9mm and run an optic. And that gun just won me over. That M17, it was reliable, it was accurate, it is reliable, it is accurate, it's a rock solid gun. About to be on my second barrel for it. I've carried it all over from the deserts of Arizona to the rainforest of southeast Alaska. And I really liked it. I also really liked that it has a safety. And I know that bucks a tactical trend. Safety's going to get you killed in the streets or whatever. I like a thumb safety. I generally run a thumb safety. I did for years when I was commander of a tactical team. I rocked a STI 2011. The SIG 226 is a single action only. It's much like a 1911, hammerback safety on. I prefer a safety. I think a safety, a thumb safety, a properly built thumb safety, not like a vestigial hashtag #MeToo safety, is on a lot of the super micro guns. But a proper ergonomic thumb safety, I think, favors the experienced person, especially if you start talking about like CQB and hand-to-hand combat and ground fighting and stuff like that. I think the thumb safety really can be an advantage. And if you know what you're doing, like some of the fastest guns in competition are single action only safety. It's not a hindrance as far as speed goes, because you do it as soon as you get that gun out of the holster and start moving it towards the target. You take the safety off way before you're pulling the trigger, so it doesn't slow you down, and it's an extra step. It is a safety. I prefer a safety. Now, if you don't want the safety, they do make a subcompact, and they're not real common. Most people want to go with something else, but now I think it's not real common, because nowadays most people want to go with a 365. And I did consider the 365, but I figured I would fall into that same thing of the Glock 43. I know the 365 are nice, but I have experience with the 365. I never fell in love with them. And if I'm going uber light, uber small, I'm going to carry the J-frame. But even with a T-shirt, you can carry a little bit bigger gun inside the waistband. So I decided to go with the M18. The M18 is the compact version, the military version of the M17. I like the M17. I generally like a full-size fighting handgun. I like the longer barrel, but I was so impressed with that gun, I figured, why not go with the M18? The M18 is a mid-size gun. It's not as small as a 26. But here's the thing. It's modular. That's one of the big things I like about the gun. Already bought, well, I'll get into the modifications later, but I can just Dremel it. I can cut it down. I can cut the grip down so it's as small as a 26 basically if I want. And if I mess it up, I'm out $35 for a grip frame. Like, I just bought one. That's $35. I'm not afraid to take a Dremel to an STI. I've done it before. I'm not afraid to take a Dremel to all kinds of stuff. Probably I do it more than I should. But you get the idea. If I ruin it, I'm out $35. I'm not out a lot of money. I can cut it down. And if I decide I want it bigger, I can just get another grip module. So there's some real utility there. So I went with that mostly for the modularity and the thumb safety. There sadly is not a lot of guns that you can get nowadays. If I had been able to find a SIG 239, which they no longer make, I might have gotten it. Because that's like the smaller, sleeker, svelter version of the 226, which I really like. However, those were out in the pre-optics on carry gun days, so I'd have to get it direct cut for an RMR like my 226 is. So I did not go that route, but it'd be a really good route. And if I ever saw one, I can't remember the last time I saw a SIG 239. I think I was years and years ago when I was a cop, I think, because I was at one time issued and carried a 229. And anyway, it's been a long time since I've seen a 239, I think. But they're a great gun. They're like the sleeker, svelter, even smaller than a 229. But the M18 seemed to make more sense because it's modular. It's got the thumb safety, which I like. Also, I already had a bunch of mags for it. Now I have a bunch of Glock mags too, but I have a bunch of 320 M17 mags. So that just kind of made sense. So that's what I settled on, the M17. Now, I got it a couple of days ago. I wanted to shoot it the day that I got it, but I thought, I know better than that. Let me go home and clean it, because you're supposed to clean a gun when you get it. You're not just supposed to go out and shoot it. You're supposed to clean it and lube it. In case there's some kind of metal shavings or stuff like that in the gun. Right, clean it and lube it when you get a new gun. Just don't take it out and shoot it. Also, one of the potential issues I'll be totally upfront with the M17, M18, I don't know why they did this, but I still like the gun. Most other guns for optics mounting, which the M17 and M18 come ready for an optic, most of them have screws that go straight down from the top. And if they come loose, your optic comes loose. Okay, hopefully you got backup iron sights. I advise backup iron sights for a lot of reasons, and that's one. But if it comes loose, it's not really going to interfere with the function of the gun. The M17, M18 has two screws that go in from the bottom of the slide. If those come loose and get loose and go down into the action of the gun, you can see where that could really cause problems and really cause issues for the gun. And this is an issue. It's not super common, but it's a potential issue. I think a lot of that is from people not putting Loctite on the screws. Like, you shouldn't just get a gun and shoot it when you get it. You should check stuff, clean stuff, lube stuff, and if it needs it, Loctite stuff. I would consider that user error. If you get a gun and it's got screws and they need to be Loctited and you don't Loctite them, that's your fault. So I took it home. I got some orange Loctite, which until recently I didn't even know they made. I usually run blue Loctite. If you ever think of using red Loctite on a gun and you're not a gunsmith, don't use red Loctite. Ask me how I know. But I saw orange Loctite, and orange Loctite says it is removable. It's just stronger than blue Loctite. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give that a shot. So I put orange Loctite on those screws and tightened it back up for the rear sight. Now, thus far, I'm just going to rock it with the irons. It comes with good night sights. Not like Glock factory plastic sights, but like good usable night sights, which is nice. I took it out and shot it. It's 100% reliable. I've shot it with 115 grain Winchester white box range fodder. I shot it with 147 grain. Rock solid, reliable so far. I also bought another grip for it. I bought a Polymer 80 grip module for it, and I already started dremeling it because it did not come cut for the safety. The safety requires a different cut. But I thought, hey, I've got files. I can make a cut in there. So that's what I spent a large part of today doing, cutting away part of that frame so I could seat the fire control unit, again, because it's modular, into that new frame. And there's nothing wrong with the factory frame. The factory frame is okay. The M17 that I run has a Wilson Combat, a grip module on it, and I like it a lot. But I thought Polymer 81, I will give it a shot. I've thought they had better ergonomics than they're kind of known for their Glock frames. I thought I'd give it a shot, so I did. I bought one, and I spent a large part of the day dremeling it out so that I could put safety fire control unit in there. It, be honest, was a lot more of a pain in the butt than I thought. I just couldn't get the geometry right. Like, I could get it in, and then the safety wouldn't work. Then it would work, but only half of the safety would work. It was just a pain. Be honest, it was a pain in the butt. I did it with hand files. Probably should have just done it with a Dremel and just made the hole bigger than it needed to be, right? But I did it with hand files. It took a lot longer than I would like, but it's... Anyway. Got the Polymer 80 lower, and I've got a holster on the way. I haven't carried it yet. I've tested it. I've shot it. It obviously fits in my M17 holster, which is outside the waistband, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? If I'm going to carry that, I'm just going to carry the full-size gun. But I got the new grip module. Now, I'm going to try, especially when I get the inside the waistband, and I usually carry, if I'm carrying a more covert, I'll carry just behind the hip, so it's just a little bit farther back than my normal carry position. But if something happens and I go to grab my gun, it's in basically the same place. So I'm going to try and carry it with the full-size grip module. We'll see. And if not, then I'll cut it down. Again, that's one of the advantages of that modular system. We'll see how it goes. I'm still waiting on the holster to come in. If anybody cares, it's like Black Scorpion. They make a really good outside the waistband holster, so I found them, and I found that they make an inside the waistband holster. Hopefully it's as good as their OWB. Their OWB, and I've had a lot of holsters, is probably the best OWB that I've ever run. It's like Black Scorpion Gear, Black Scorpion Tactical. It's fantastic. It's like really well built without being overbuilt, because a lot of those are just overbuilt. Which you might think is great, but you got to carry it all day. So I don't think that it is great. I'm talking, I like it better than Blade Tech. I like it better than Safariland. I like it better than Blackhawk. It's a fantastic holster, and it doesn't really cost anymore. In fact, it probably costs significantly less than a Safariland. So, Black Scorpion, forget if it's tactical or gear or whatever, but make a really good holster. I'm going to try their inside the waistband when I get it. We'll see how that goes. Now, it is ready for an optic, and I think I'm just going to rock it with the iron sights for a while. Also, I'm kind of in this back to basics stage where I've been practicing a lot with a factory standard Glock and a, rifle sighted 870, just to back to basics. So I think for a little while I'm going to rock it with the iron sights. I was out getting good hits. I did have to adjust the sights. I did have to beat on it with a hammer, which is always fun to a brand new gun. But I got the sights adjusted, and I was getting good hits out at 50 yards with the iron sights. So I'll probably rock it with the iron sights for a little while. And again, it comes ready. It's a T-top. If I can use that vernacular like a car, I can pop it off and then pop something else on the top. If I want to run, I think the M18, M17 is direct cut for a Delta Point Pro, or I'll get an adapter plate and rock something else. Again, that's part of the modularity of it. A good system. Also, one of the benefits, not only is the 320 platform proven, the M17, M18, You know I'm big on the 3-year mark kind of thing if you're going to trust your life to something. Don't trust your life to something unproven. Don't run out and grab the latest, greatest, every gun tuber in the world. It's like, this gun is so hot right now, you got to get it. A lot of guns, when they're brand new, have problems. They have recalls. I don't care what manufacturer. I don't care if it's Glock, Smith & Wesson, all the big manufacturers. It is not uncommon when a brand new model comes out to have issues, and I've been burned like that in the past. I learned the hard way, which is why I tell you guys, you don't have to learn the hard way. If you just want a range toy, if you just want to go out and plink, and you just want to try the latest and greatest thing, go ahead, But a lot of new models, when they come out, have issues. Don't be a beta tester in a gunfight. The 320 is super proven at this point. It just hit we're in the 10-year anniversary year of the 320. Not only that, but the M17, M18 is the military's new handgun. And it's been a couple of years now. And they haven't spewed it out of their mouth, right? They're not breaking in mass quantities. That's a lot more T&E than I'm going to be able to give it. So I'm pretty comfortable with the platform. That is one bonus to going to something that's so well proven. Anyway, that's what I chose. The M18 is my new compact carry gun. Praise God. Able to sell a couple of guns, get a decent compact carry gun for the family. Like right now, because we're a family, right? My wife, she had a gun, and she had a gun before I met her. Her compact carry gun got stolen as well. So it'll be like our combined compact carry gun, at least for a while. And then also, she has my 5-shot 357 Magnum right now. That's not a great gun for all but the most experienced shooters, right? But it's what we had. But now it's what she has. I left it with her. I drove across country. She had to stay a little bit longer to help out her friend, and now she's on her way back to cross country. But at least she's got that. Anyway, that is my new compact carry gun, the M18, with some of the modifications that I've done to it. And I don't care if you want to get an M18. I'm not telling you it's the best for you. I'm saying think critically. And some of the avenues I went down and reasons why I did or did not do certain things, hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you glean from it. Right? The M18 is a blessing to me. Hopefully this podcast is a blessing to you. The main point of doing this podcast is not to help me. It's one, to serve God, and two, to serve you guys. Right? To help you guys. I do have patrons that support the podcast, and I'm very grateful for them. But I walked away from really decent paying jobs to do the podcast. It is a labor of love. So hopefully it benefited you. With that, your tactical tip of the day. You're trying to get yoked. I think the younger kids now are saying you're trying to get swole, trying to get muscle. Sure, you can eat raw eggs. There's nothing wrong with eating raw eggs. I've eaten more raw eggs than I can remember. There's nothing wrong with just eating protein powder. But if you mix protein powder and raw eggs, which I'm not telling you is safe to do, but I'm telling you I do it. I'll probably get in trouble for telling you to do that, but I'm telling you that I do it. If it's a good tasting protein powder and you mix it with eggs, it's kind of like cookie dough. And I don't eat sugar, I don't eat that stuff. I'm not used to eating sugar, so you might not think it tastes like that if you're expecting something sweet, but it's better than the sum of its parts. In general, mixing the protein powder with raw eggs tastes better than a raw egg. As much as I like sucking down something that tastes like cold snot, it tastes better than a raw egg. And it generally tastes better than the protein powder mixed with water. Plus, you don't just need protein. You need good, healthy fat, too. You don't need carbs. There's no essential carbohydrates. There's essential proteins and essential fats. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, mixing your protein powder with raw eggs, delicious, nutritious. That's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. You shall not at all do as we are doing here today, every man doing whatever is right in his own eyes. You talk about a verse that sums up today's culture. Everybody doing whatever is right in their own eyes. You are not to do that. Repeat, you are not to do that. You're not to do as we are doing here today. You're not supposed to do whatever is right in your own eyes. It's not live your best life. That makes me want to vomit. Live your best life. You're not happy in your marriage anymore. Somebody else is batting their eyes at you. You know, go live your best life. That garbage. This world's not about you. This world doesn't revolve around you, and it doesn't revolve around me. It revolves around God. You live your life the way He tells you to live your life, not doing whatever is right in your own eyes. What is right and wrong is not based on what you want it to be, right? It's based on what God says that it is. So don't fall victim to that garbage and the perversity in our society and culture today. Don't do whatever is right in your own eyes. Do what God tells you to do. It's a better life. Trust me. Again, I learned the hard way. Hopefully you don't have to. Don't do whatever is right in your own eyes. That leads nowhere good. God gives us instructions. He tells us what's right and wrong for our good. God is no less God, no less powerful if you don't listen to Him. He's telling you for your own good. So listen to Him. Again, from somebody that's learned the hard way. You don't win fights against God. Don't do whatever is right in your own eyes. Do what God tells you to do. He's smarter than you, wiser than you, better than you. That's why He's God. Listen to Him. He loves you. With that, thanks for listening and have a blessed day.